Hi, I'm Jack Grimmer at Wycombe Wanderers, and you're listening to Wycombe Sound.
The Wycombe Wanderers Show.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show, back after last week's postponement. Lots to get through. Coming up in the next hour, we'll hear from legendary winger Steve Guppy. We'll catch up with Wycombe Wanderers Women Ambassador Emily Isaac. We'll hear from manager Gareth Ainsworth, Steve Brown, who was summarising for us with the commentary from the game against Accrington Stanley on Tuesday night. We'll bring you that post-match interview with Gareth as well. We'll hear from Phil, as you'd expect. Nope, I think that's it. Plenty to bring you, though, between now and the end of this week's programme. We'll start with our debrief, of course, with Phil, at what's been obviously a very difficult time for everyone, and those at the club included.
Yeah, it was obviously terrible news, and having all football postponed, it meant there was a gap of 10 days between games, which is it's quite difficult to deal with at this stage of the season from a playing perspective. They're all fit and raring to go. They've come through pre-season. They've gotten into the match schedules and into their routines, and then to lose a game when everyone's in the same boat. But yeah, it was a tough one. It's a tough one for Vokesy because he was on the bench for the trip to Fleetwood, and I think the plan was to get him on there maybe in the closing stages to get him some minutes on his return from injury. But with the early red card of Gareth McCleary, then that wasn't possible. So yeah, he would have been really champing at the bit, I think, and really probably looking forward to getting stuck into Port Vale at Adams Park on the Saturday. But he had to wait a few more days, and it was good to see him playing the 90 on Tuesday against Accrington Stanley. But yeah, I think the mood's good. I think the return of Tafazoli, the introduction of Max Striek in goal, the return of Vokesy, I think the better and better form of Josh Scully just keeps getting better and better, doesn't he? So that spine of the team now is starting to look really consistent. I think Alfie Mawson's really coming into his own as well. So I think it's what Gareth said a few weeks ago when there was that sticky run. He said, look, judge us when the players are back fit and he's got what he needs. And lo and behold, that's what's happened, and the results have come along as well. So tough run coming up. So I thought Tuesday night's win was very important.
I think especially when fans would have seen the starting lineup for Tuesday, they'd have been really encouraged for many of the reasons that you've highlighted.
Yeah, and then it was a change to back three as well, which always gets fans talking, doesn't it? Because then it's why has he done that? And obviously, if you lose that game, then it's that's down to going to back three. But then we won the game, and I think the first 15 minutes, you could tell, I think Accrington Stanley have been working very hard on playing against a back four, although they didn't really have any strikers on the pitch due to their own sort of injury situation. But yeah, they certainly seemed thrown by how Wycombe approached the game initially. I thought they played very well, especially in the second half. So it was a very good win indeed. But yeah, I think he looks like he's finding his best 11, and it was interesting to get Jason McCarthy in and Jack Grimmer. I think Jack Grimmer's been excellent, especially in that last game as well, and on that right hand side of a back three just shows that bit of versatility. And then to have Jason McCarthy come into that right wing back role, I think it's just a good way of getting those players into that system that Gareth Ainsworth seems to like. He was being very coy earlier about what system he prefers to play, and obviously wants to keep people guessing. But I think it's nice that we've got these two systems now where we've seen the players looking comfortable, and the system worked on Tuesday, and will be interesting to see what he does against Derby on Saturday. But he was obviously quite buoyant after I spoke to him after the final whistle on Tuesday night.
I thought we were solid. We didn't look like we were going to get scored against. They had one really good chance, we put a cross in, and I think low or layout it was, got to it near post. Max was superb, and I thought his handling, the way he manages the team in front of him, and his kicking was outstanding. But he had a great 10 in front of him, a real 10. I don't want to pick anyone out today because everyone was superb. It's probably a Wycombe performance in the rain on a zippy pitch, with a Tuesday night, 2, 3, maybe £4,000 here. That's all that we can, we get for these games, and fair play to the Accrington fans, for travelling all that way. I live up there. I know how far it is, but they were there for their team, and I'm sure that they'll get more points on the road because they're decent, when they can hurt you coming forward. But we didn't want to be hurt today. The boys were drilled well this week. We changed shape slightly. Obviously, we went 3 at the back, and I thought it worked well. I think that looking at the footage with Josh earlier in the week, that's the way we wanted to have a look at things. And then Dobbo Bloom's come in. I told him what I wanted to do, and together we all verified that we thought that was the way that we could hurt Accrington. I thought first 10 minutes we were camped in their half, and then when they started chucking so much forward at us when we went 1-0 up, Anis seemed to be getting so much space, and then Ali when he came on, and I thought we could have added one or two more. Guppy run through, just lost his legs, didn't he, and that last final bit. But Lewis Wing, and again, chances, and Volksy right there, and it would have been great to cap that off. But no, really pleased. Good to have Volksy back. The legs have got to be rested now for Saturday, because we've got a big game coming up. Derby, who got beat today, and not going to be happy about that. So, but really pleased with everyone today.
We had Steve Brown on comms tonight, and unsurprisingly was purring about the central midfielders, Josh Go and Dominic Gape. Fantastic tonight.
Absolutely, and then Nick Freeman, when he came on, I put another one in there because I thought they were just getting hold of the ball a little bit too much for me, and Nick did a job as well. So, but Dom and Josh, honestly, there's not two better midfielders in this league, I'm telling you. And if there is, they're probably here. With Lewis Wing, Nick Freeman, Jack Young coming through, and Curtis Thompson. Wow, I forgot about Curtis. He's been injured for a while. So we've got these midfield ratters because the way we play, they love. I just said to Dom, I thought you're outstanding. Dom covered every blade, and he said to me, I love Dick Gaffer, and that's great for me when they love playing this dogged way. Sometimes we probably went slightly away from some of the flowing football we've played, but again, that was from me. I wanted to make sure the tactics were right to try and get at Accrington. They press you high, and we tried to get the ball forward as quick as we could to get in behind them, and it worked. Jason McCarthy's goal took really well. Brilliant to have him back in the team, and as is Sam Volks. I say it's only one game. John's a wily fox in this game. They'll get points on the road, believe me, and I consider that a good result against a management team that's nearly as long as me. They've been together, so very, very big respect for Accrington.
Accrington, by my count, 11 corners, probably double figures in terms of long throws into the box as well. But the clean sheet will certainly please you after some of the troubles that Wycombe had in the earlier games of the season with set pieces. Yeah,
we worked hard on it, and we brought them in a couple of afternoons working on that. We've watched Accrington extensively, and long throws and set pieces. But I think that any team tonight would have struggled to play the way we pressed, the way the energy was in the team. I think the boys were a bit aggrieved at last week's equaliser, and they wanted to put a marker down tonight, and that's really good. But safe trip home for Accrington. Like I say, a lot of respect. That's my part of the world, but really pleased we got the win.
And also, obviously, fans who would have either heard your commentary or been to the game as well, there were a number of standout names from that. We heard him especially praising the midfield talent available to him.
Absolutely. Gape and Scowen together were fantastic. I think Gareth Ainsworth described them as ratters. And so they run around sort of winning the ball back, doing a lot of pressing. And it allows Lewis Wing to kind of push forwards and use the ball further up the pitch. But the assist from the goal came from Josh Scowen. I thought he was superb. Steve Brown gave him the man of the match, which was a tough decision because Anis Remeti had really lit Adams Park up as well on Tuesday night. But yeah, I think the big performers as well. I think Alfie Mawson didn't miss anything all night. I think he looks great alongside Tafazoli and in the back three with Jack Grimmer. But the keeper has made a huge difference, Colin, because it's just that game experience, and not that Tyler Dickinson did anything wrong in those opening games, but you could tell he's very much learning the game and learning senior football. Invaluable experience for him, but Wycombe Wanderers, I think with the change of personnel at the back as well, needed some solidity and stability there, and with the return of Taff, the introduction of Mawson, who's been playing 90 minutes now, which is great, and now Max Striek behind, and it's 3 clean sheets in 5 appearances for Max, and it was really good to speak to him after the game as well.
Firstly, we wanted to win the game. I think our objective was achieved. We won the game. Obviously, clean sheet and defensive performance from our team was brilliant today, and I think everyone seems to be happy today because they could have broken us down on the corners, set places and stuff like this, but actually we stood up and defended really well our box, so that's credit to all the team.
A big defensive display. It was 11 corners by my count, and I think maybe double figures in terms of long throws into the box, so a lot of defending to do as a unit.
I lost counting after the first one, to be fair. No, I'm joking. Obviously, we knew what they are all about. We knew they're going to put physical battle into it. We knew they are about set pieces, throw-ins, corners, free kicks and stuff like this, so we prepared for that game really well, and I think, as you could see today, didn't really have much shots and chances to score a goal.
It's the first time we've spoken to you since the day you signed. How have you settled into life here at Wycombe Wanderers?
it's great. I'm really enjoying it, and obviously staff, facilities, everything is amazing. I'm really happy here. I just basically love coming into training, love playing games, and then hopefully soon I will find a place to live. But actually, I'm enjoying the area. I'm just settling fine for now.
And while we got you on there, you're looking for somewhere to live in Wycombe. What do you need?
Ideally, 2-bedroom house with a garden, but we'll see.
Okay, if anyone can help, Max, he's a lovely guy.
And I've got a dog.
Okay, and a dog as well. The dog's nice as well, right?
He's nice, but I'm not saying a breed.
Okay.
People will get scared.
Really good to hear from Max, and you know, as you say, he seems to have settled in so well.
Yeah, and he's quite a striking character. He's quite sort of intense when you meet him, but he's very friendly. He's got a huge smile, and underneath it all, you can tell there's a proper goalkeeping personality, if you know what I mean, Colin. They say they're all crazy. Stocko certainly was, and I think Max has got it in him as well. So there's a certain sense of mischief about him, which I'm looking forward to discovering as the weeks go by.
Also, it's brilliant to have Steve Brown alongside you on Tuesday as well.
Absolutely fantastic to have Brownie with me. And I loved watching him as a player. He was brilliant, and you could just tell by the love that he got online from people listening in and watching in on Wanderers TV, listening to Wycombe Sound and the commentary. They loved Brownie still, and it was wonderful. And we learned so much about him as well. People asking him if he still had his allotment and things. I had no idea that he was a gardener, and and apparently that was common knowledge back in the day. I missed that as a fan, but really good to get his insight onto the game as well. And he was so excited watching Josh Scowen and Dominic Gape flying into tackles. I think more so than even when Wycombe scored. He was that combative midfielder, and I think he just loved watching it unfold on the pitch. And like he said, he's a huge fan of Josh Scowen. He was hugely impressed with Anis Vermetti as well, and he says he loves watching him play. It'll be really good. And we're speaking to him since then, and hoping to get him back on a few more games this season as well, because he was excellent.
And really nice to get his thoughts after the game as well on how he thought what he saw would help the team going forward.
I think, they're competitive. Gareth's got a team that's going to be competitive all season, and I saw that tonight. Their work rate, they get up and down the pitch, they go and press the ball, they have they create a lot of turnovers just through their work rate, and that's good for the likes of Josh and Dominic Gape and Jason McCarthy, who want to get up and down the pitch, as well as Jordan Abita on the other side, to get up there and support the play, because they do break and they win the ball at times when the opposition are open because they're in possession, and that's when they can play through teams and hopefully score more goals. I mean, tonight it looks just like a 1-0, but I must say the Accrington keeper made 4 or 5 really top saves that keeps them in the game, and at 1-0 they're always in the game. So for me, 1-0 doesn't really reflect Wycombe's performance tonight. I think 3 or 4 would have been more reflective of the chances they created. But yeah, it's exciting. The next group of games, going to Derby on Saturday, they can go there and get a result, no doubt. A bit of extra spice of that in that game as well.
So Derby next, and obviously relegated last season, and there's other sort of history between the two sides as well, but that'll be a very different sort of test to what was faced at Adams Park on Tuesday.
Yeah, their home form is really, really good. They haven't scored a goal away from Pride Park, on the road they're struggling. At home though, they seem to be okay. Although they did lose their last home game against Plymouth 3-2, having led that one 2-0. And it's been interesting. I spoke to the reporter for BBC Derby who covers the Rams, and he was saying that obviously huge amounts of change on and off the pitch up at Pride Park. The new owner's given a bit of stability, but they only had 5 players contracted when Liam Rossini got the job after Wayne Rooney left, so he's had to bring 14 other players in, so that will take time. But weirdly, they sort of started quite well, and they've kind of fallen off a little bit of late, so it'll be interesting to see if the pressure will be on, because Liam Rossini is still only the interim manager. He hasn't been given the job outright formally, so I could sense there may be some pressure on there. And of course Derby, a massive club in League One, and their fans, although clearly relieved that they're able to now to talk about football matches and Derby County as a football club, rather than having to nervously sort of read the financial pages to find out what's going on with their club and whether they indeed would still have a club. They've come through that now brilliantly, but they're now talking about the football again, and now all of a sudden, after a couple of sticky results, the pressure could be coming onto Liam Rossini. And if Wycombe were to win on Saturday, which I very much hope they do, then that will only add to that. But their fans, I think there'll be upwards of maybe 28,000 there on Saturday. So I know Gareth Ainsworth does like to poop the party, shall we say. And if Wycombe can start well and get that fan base on the home team's back and maybe on the manager's back, then that frustration can maybe seep onto the pitch for the players as well, and could really suit Wycombe Wanderers, and it'd be fantastic for them to pick up another 3 points in what is the start of a very tough set of looking fixtures.
I'm really interesting to hear the manager describing, the sort of team's progress is very much under the radar, which I think is kind of quite how he likes it.
He loves being under the radar. He loves being the underdog. He always paints Wycombe as the underdog, and it's worked, hasn't it? It's something he's struggled with at times, because we've had to play teams who we've now got a better budget than, and then now it's like, how are you going to paint this as the underdog now? But he always finds a way. But I think he doesn't have to try very hard to paint Wycombe as the underdog in this game, because this is Derby County. This is a huge football club, huge fan base. Yes, they've had their challenges, and let's not forget there will be some spice around this fixture as well between the Derby fans, who I don't think are particularly enamoured with Wycombe Wanderers, and Rob Kuhig, our chairman. That may well play its part on Saturday as well.
Well, Peterborough coming up soon as well.
Yeah, well, another team that absolutely love the work of this football club.
Pleasure to speak to you. Enjoy the game on Saturday, and of course have a good journey up. I hope you're able to discover some treasure en route as well.
Yeah, well, it's not the longest trip, but I think it's long enough for a services stop. So I shall see what we can find.
Don't miss Phil's commentary here on Wycombe Sound and on Wanderers TV, where you can also catch the full interviews from Gareth and from Max as well.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.
Still to come on this week's edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show, we'll hear from Wycombe Wanderers Women Ambassador Emily Isaac, and more from manager Gareth Ainsworth as well. But first, with a big thanks to the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association. Very much looking forward to bringing you this interview. A chat with Wycombe Wanderers former winger Steve Guppy, who, in case you didn't know, is currently coaching over in Nashville with former Wycombe Wanderers Gary Smith, as well as the head coach of Nashville in the MLS. Something else which is worth pointing out in this chat, because it does get referred to, is another former player, Andy Robinson, who we've also chatted to on the show as well, is with him, because it does get referred to. But first, here is Steve telling us his earliest memories of his time at the club.
I just remember when I moved to Wycombe. It was the first time I'd moved away from home, so leaving mum and dad's house, and I moved into a little bungalow that Ivor Beeks, the chairman, owned, and I moved in with Andy Kerr, which was an experience in itself.
I was going to say, I'm sure we could do a whole show just on that.
Yeah, definitely. It might have to be after 8:00 at night. But anyway, no, it was so it was all new. It was a fantastic experience, and I was playing. It wasn't quite as simple as I'm making it sound, because Jim Cowman was manager, and I came in originally and played a couple of trial games, and he said no. Bless him, Jim. He said he needed to get rid of a few players before I came in, which in the game is code for, no, we're not going to sign you. Incredibly, and the only reason I'm going down this road, because Robbo, we were talking about it last night. So I was going to go to Exeter on trial, being like 19 years old, going to go to Exeter. They'd watched me play for the team I was playing for, and they wanted me to come down and have a little go with them. But incredibly, I got a pre-season letter from Wycombe telling me to be at Bisham Abbey for pre-seasons, such and such. So I must have been on their database, because they'd already said no. So I thought, you know what? I'll go and train at Wycombe to get fit to go to Exeter on trial. So I turned up at Bisham Abbey. I don't think they were expecting me to be there. It was like first day of pre-season. We went for like a 4-mile run and then had 11 aside. But what I didn't realise, the 11 aside, I was up against Steve Abley, who was like the first choice fullback at the time. And I must have done okay, because when the training session finished, I went to see Jim Cowman and said, listen, Jim, thanks very much. I'm off to Exeter. And he's like, hold on a minute, where are you going? And then they offered me a deal to stay there and then. So around the houses, but that was how it came to be that I ended up signing for Wycombe. So not quite straightforward as people might think.
And did it feel like you settled in really quickly? Because obviously a lot of the players that you play with, and throughout your time at the club, really, it was such an exciting brand of football that you were playing.
It was incredible. I have to say, it was this, Robbo here, obviously, when I first came, he was like, he was one of the main first team players, Andy Kerr, first team player. And I really was on the outside looking in, but they always sort of like took me under their wing, looked after me. First time away from home, I wasn't very good at doing the washing up and things like that. Curry used to drive Curry mad. But then as things started to evolve and I started to play a bit and get in the first team, and then more signings and Martin O'Neill came in. I mean, we were saying, look, at one point, it was a 2-bedroom bungalow in top of Booker. Robbo's laughing now. At one point, there was about 8 players living in it. I mean, there was, I had my own room, Curry had my own room. We had about 6 players living in the front room. Yet we won the league that year. So, it didn't make any sense how things panned out. But what it was, the togetherness it all brought, it was immense. And I say, I've obviously been really fortunate to play for a number of clubs, for over like 20-year period or whatever it was. And I have to say that my time at Wycombe, the togetherness and how we all were and how the test of time where a lot of us all stay in touch together was really, really made all my experiences at Wycombe, super positive ones.
It does sound like the bungalow in Booker should be really responsible for a lot of the success at that time. I think this would be a great selling point for bungalows in the area.
It was a sad day when they knocked it down. I'll tell you that. But no, it was. Listen, we were all young, away from home for the first time, and it was just a great adventure, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. Brilliant times.
Did it feel like a really special time at the club? Obviously, this is even before you helped them into the Football League, and obviously the playoff final and the FA Trophy final at Wembley as well, and just some of those players that you mentioned. We spoke to Glenn Creaser before, and obviously Andy Kerr you mentioned, and Jason Cousins and Dave Carroll, all those sort of people that all together, plus yourself obviously, but supplying brilliant crosses for Keith Scott. I'd say the real style of play that you were involved in then.
Yeah, I think Jim Cowman was a good coach, and a good guy. But when he left, Martin O'Neill came in, and he turned everything on its head, really. And I think we could all sense that something good was in the making because there was this guy who just demanded so much, and his will to win just rubbed off on all of us. And he took us on a journey, really, and also what helped as well, we went to a new stadium. So it was just something growing all the time. We were really moving forward, and it just grew and grew and grew. And the nice thing was as well, in them days, the fans or the supporters and the players, we all sort of socialised together. There was a big bar after every game, and the players and the supporters used to come in, mingle. And so we all kind of went on a journey together. That's what it felt like. Looking back now, as you go to other clubs, there's a big distance between the players and the supporters. And sometimes it's needed, but really in them days, it felt all the more exciting that we're all in it together and everyone could feel it. We had a fantastic manager, Martin O'Neill, and he just took us all on this great, wonderful journey for a number of years.
And such a fan favourite as well. I think obviously the style of play that you had, taking players on and the great crosses. And I think it meant so much to fans. I mean, I was speaking to someone recently who's a sort of similar age to myself. And he was saying that, he still remembers today it was brilliant that you came to his school and coached. And he was like, oh, Steve Guppy came to our school and coached. And that was sort of when you were playing, now obviously a successful coach in your own right. But he still remembers that. And for a Wycombe player who's, doing so well and to come to his school and coach, it was really exciting. And then obviously come and see you on a Saturday as well.
Yeah, well, I think that highlights my point, I guess. I'm not sure my session back in them days would have been worth remembering. I hope he's forgotten it. But it was just nice that we all, and when we went out in the evenings, no one went down to London or anywhere like that. We went out, in High Wycombe. People remember the Orchard nightclub and the Boulevard, the bar, and that, because we're all young men, just and just socialising together. And I think it all really helped, the bond of the players especially, but also the supporters as well. That there was a really unique period that was obviously fabulously successful, which made it all the more enjoyable. But it was still nothing but happy memories, and I think maybe the supporters from that era can relate to that too, because everyone was accessible.
And those trips to Wembley must really stand out in your memory as well.
Oh, yeah. It was I talk about it a fair bit, you know, when Wembley and what have you, is that, you know, we all dream we're all as kids. We all used to watch the FA Cup final, the build up throughout the day. You know, from that era, that maybe doesn't happen so much nowadays. But in our era, the FA Cup final day started about 9 a.m. and it worked all the way through the day. And you always dream about playing at Wembley and walking out of that tunnel to be greeted by the crowd. And I have to say that moment is one of the few moments in life where it's every bit as good as you hoped it would be. It was magical experience. You know, as I referred to earlier, there was a load of us living in the bungalow together. But when we got to like the fourth round, maybe moving into the quarterfinals, I remember like Matt Crosley and me, that's all we spoke about. We spoke about, you know, can we get to the final? How can we get to the final? And, you know, there was nothing else going on in our lives apart from trying to get to this trophy final. It really was. It was incredible. And then, of course, we drew Altrincham in the semi-final, who were strong favourites to beat us. But, you know, we were so tuned in, a group of young players who were just so tuned in, you know, along with people like Crease and, you know, and Johnny Granville to try and make it. And it was, you know, to play at Wembley. And I look back now and all my family came and I got a big coach up from Southampton, you know, mum, dad, and all these wonderful days that I look back and treasure so dearly now.
And it must be incredible as well to think, you know, I'm sure fans, it's easy to take for granted, isn't it, that obviously before you turned professional, you had jobs other than playing football as well, and sort of away games at teams like Fisher Athletic, and then all of a sudden you're at Wembley as well.
Well, it's true, you know. I mean, obviously, that first time playing at Wembley was just so big a thing. But we all had job. I worked for Ivor Beaks's. Me and Robbo both did. He says he did a lot more work than I did, and he's probably right. I mean, just working on the building site, earn the extra money. You know, I did that for a while. Not sure I really earned my money, but I was out there. I was in the building site every day. But I think after a year or so, I just decided, I think I was only on £50 a week. I think that's what I was on. Then after that, I decided to really take football a lot more seriously. So I tried to live off £50 a week and then just sort of like went practicing up a local field on my own every day. So I turned professional a couple of years before everyone else did. But, you know, it was great when we obviously won the conference and became professional players in our own right, which once again was, you know, a magical experience, something that everyone dreams of, becoming a professional footballer, and we were no different. You know, there was no doubt the manager, Martin Neal, was building a very, very decent team, and a lot of us were, you know, similar age, similar stories, where we hadn't quite made it for whatever reason in the pro game, you know, before that, and we all came together, you know, and it just went on an incredible journey.
Have you got any sort of particular favourite, if you like, games or occasions that particularly stand out?
I mean, obviously the Wembley finals were magical. I'll tell you one game. To be honest, when we get together, we don't often talk about the games. It's more about the, you know, the nights out or the, you know, the silly stories and what have you. But there was one game in particular when we played Sutton United in the second trophy run in '93, and we'd lost the first game at Adams Park. I think it was 3-2. Which was a bit of a shock. We were kind of expected to win comfortably. Sutton were a league below us, but they were a good team. So we lost it 3-2. So there was a little bit of hoo-ha about that and what we're going to do. You know, are we not going to get to the final? So there's a lot of soul searching went on, you know, as we had to wait 1 or 2 weeks for the replay, you know, for the second leg. So we went down to Sutton, just, you know, 1 goal down, and they're at home. You know, so we were up against it. But I remember we speak about it fairly regularly, but it was the feeling in the dressing room just before we went out was so powerful. Everyone was in such a zone because Martin Neal had really whipped us up, and he, you know, he knew. And he says when, you know, said afterwards, I knew we were going to win. I think we all did when we went out. We were in such a frame of mind, and we went out and obviously won convincingly. I think it was 4-0. But that feeling in the dressing room before the game, it was a feeling I didn't experience loads of times throughout my career. It was such an incredible experience.
And when you left to go to Newcastle, obviously, I guess a period of real mixed emotions, especially for fans disappointed to see you go, but obviously wishing you well at a higher level, and your relationship with the manager as well is obviously much better now, but it sort of changed then too.
Yeah. I mean, crikey, it was such a tough one because we went up into League One. So one promotion, and then my agent at the time, was like, listen, Newcastle want you. They were top of the Premiership. You've got to remember that. They were, Newcastle United. But then it all got a little bit silly where my agent didn't do his job properly. He was trying to get me to do his work for him, and I was just completely sold on the idea of going to Newcastle. So, I was completely frustrating to the manager. Obviously, we built such a great relationship, but I think he understood that, Newcastle was a massive, massive opportunity. He was just trying to get the best for the club. But I was kind of out of contract. So although there was no Bosman in them days, it would go to a tribunal, and it was all a bit messy, really. But it didn't need to be. I blame my agent. But at the end of the day, what happened. And, I got to experience playing at, a fantastic club like Newcastle United. So it would have been really difficult to turn that down. I don't think many people would have.
And obviously you went on to do really well with Port Vale, and then obviously later with Leicester, and then reuniting with the manager again, and him taking you to Celtic as well. Yeah. I mean, it all worked out. He didn't talk to me for a year, but I went to Newcastle, massive club, really, really. They used to have like 1,000 people come watch training. I mean, it was an incredible period. We had Andy Cole, Peter Beardsley up front. They were really in the golden years. And I think I'm pretty sure I'm saying they signed a deal with Adidas, a shirt sponsorship that they didn't think they were going to get. So rather than of trying to bring in players like myself, and Jason Drysdale signed from Watford the same day, so young up-and-coming players, they could then go out and buy ready-made players. So they went out and bought David Ginola, which wasn't good news for me. But so that came to an end within 6 months. Listen, it was still an experience, and I moved down to Port Vale. I didn't have a clue where they were, but they were a championship team. So although I took a step back, I was still playing in the championship at Port Vale, and that was a completely different environment altogether. You go from the top of Newcastle, top of the Premiership, to Port Vale, who were a decent, championship team, but facilities were it was on their knees a little bit. It was real. You had to really roll your sleeves up and get the job done. So that was a great experience to try and get through that period, really. And ultimately, towards the end of Port Vale, we had a very, very good side, and we were very close to making the playoffs the year I left as well. So it all worked out. But it was you had to dig deep in the potteries. It's not the greatest area, so it was tough. But look back now once again on with nothing but fond memories. Were you still living in a bungalow at the time?
No, I'd grown up since then. I was with my girlfriend, and we were living in a rented accommodation. It was lovely, actually. It was really nice. But no, it was those times had moved on.
You must be so proud of your international record as well, playing for under 21s and the semi-pro, the B, and of course the full international as well.
Yeah. No, it was a obviously incredible thing to happen. But yeah, I'm playing for England non-league with Wycombe. And it was I think it was a sign of how well the club had gone. I think there was about 5 of us in that team when we played Wales. So it was just showed where Wycombe was in the non-league scene at that point. And then moving on to Leicester, just starting to, play in the Premiership and playing as a wing-back, different to my role at Wycombe, but still enjoyed it. And things started to move, and the under-21s, England B, then the England full team. It was a lovely progression, and it was once again just memorable. It's funny. I used to, when I was working with Roy Keane with the Irish team, he used to always give me stick about playing 2 games for England, my first and my last. But, so that was quite funny. But the one thing I do remember is when I played for England. Is you line up and have the national anthem. You only do that in England for finals and playing for your country. So it's quite a big thing. Well, over here in America, they do it for every game. But, so it was quite a big thing. You look forward to it. And I remember I was stood there in the crowd, in lining up, and the national anthem started. And I saw my dad in the crowd. And, when I think back all the years in the back garden practicing and travelling here, there and everywhere. He came to Neil on every single game at Wycombe, Port Vale and Leicester. You know, he was there all the way. So we looked at each other, and it wasn't an emotional moment. We both burst out laughing because it was almost like, can you believe it's come to this? You know, where there it was playing for England. So it was just a great journey.
And really nice for you to be coaching at international level as well, again with the manager for Republic of Ireland. Yeah,
I mean, we went round the houses a bit, loads of other coaching roles, but very, very fortunate to have worked on the international scene as a coach. Really helped me a great deal when, as I referred to earlier, working with people like Roy Keane and Steve Walford again and Seamus McDonnell, Martin O'Neill's, trusted backroom staff. So it was absolutely amazing to work on the international scene. The pressure you get for any coaching role, playing for a team is one thing, but when you're representing a country, that it just feels incredible. And then we were fortunate enough to qualify for the Euros in France 2016. And I have to say that whenever I'm feeling miserable or down, I never watch footage of myself playing. I watch footage of the Republic of Ireland goals that got us to the Euros, because it was such a magical thing that happened to us.
And we should mention as well, obviously, your second spell at Wycombe. What was that like to kind of come back?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I mean, John Gorman was manager. Paul Lambert was there first, and I went back and was training. And it was a bit funny, really, because I went back and trained, and I was doing all right. I still had a little bit left in the tank. And contract negotiations with Paul, when I played with Port Celtic, were bizarre. Whereas, I had an idea of what I wanted to be paid, and his idea was completely different to mine. And we went back and forth, and I can't remember what the number was, but in the end, we were I was haggling over petrol money, and I still wanted to sign. I really wanted to do it. And then it came down, I was £200 a game. And then it went down to £100 a game. And I was like, geez, I'm working out here. I'm not even getting enough petrol to get to the ground. And then in the end, Paul went, will you do it for free? So I guess looking back now, it was always leading to that. And I said, I will if you will. And I never heard from him again. So, that was quite funny. But I played with, for John Gorman. Steve Claridge came along as well. And it was all right. It was all right. It was great to be with Keith Ryan again. He was a really good friend of mine. And, we were okay, mid-table. But I'd already had this chance to go and play in America with DC United. And I was kind of tuned in on that. Really wanted, at my age, bounce around a little bit around the English League. So it was an opportunity to go to America with something that I really wanted to do. So when that came to an end, I was on a plane and off to DC.
So how have you found coaching? It must be really nice to be able to kind of pass on things to other pros, and I guess obviously especially who play in a similar position to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's all right on a good day. I as a coach, I'm really more into position specific, and I love the art of 1v1s, taking players on. I think it's something that's not studied a great deal. And I've taken upon myself the last 10, 20, even as a player, to really study, the whole art of taking players on. And, I wish I'd known now back then, if I'd known back then at Wycombe or whatever, some of the things that I try and help the players with now, it would have helped me a great deal. So, I've come up with for want of a better term, a bit of a 1v1 formula. And I teach the players, or try and say teach, offer them up these ideas, and we work on it on a daily basis. Because to me, to score a goal is the hardest thing in the game, no doubt. But then after that, the second hardest thing is to beat a player. So that's why, for me, attackers, wingers, forwards have to work harder than everyone else, because it's harder to create than it is to stop. Hence, as I was saying before we came on, this was my day off today, but I went in and worked for an hour with a couple of young wingers we got, just working on that, just repetitions to combine the feet with the body, movements, and taking players on. And that's what I love. I really, really enjoy doing that. Spend all my time studying it and sort of like perfecting and working on this 1v1 formula to try and help players. And that's what I've really done, I guess, since I started my coaching, career, is really sort of honing on that sort of idea.
And do you feel really settled in America? Because you said you played the latter part of your career for a couple of clubs, and now you've coached with Gary Smith a couple of times as well, and obviously now with Nashville as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be like a Wycombe Wanderers reunion in Nashville this week with Matt Crosley and Robbo and Smudge. But do you know what? I mean, I had that experience at DC, really enjoyed it. My wife loved it. You know, it was great. But then it ended, and I went back and had a year at Stevenage. So it wasn't really, intentional how it came about. I mean, it was a bit of a long-winded story. I'll spare you it. But I ended up being a player coach at Rochester Rhinos, which is like New York State. And how that came about was just incredible. But it did. And then at the same time, Gary Smith was getting a job with Arsenal, going to work at Colorado Rapids over there. So we both were out in America at the same time. He ended up getting the head job at Colorado. I ended up having a year playing and coaching in Rochester, which was the USL, which was the league below MLS. And then when that season finished, he invited me to go and be his first assistant at Colorado. And that's really been the beginning of our story, really. I've been back and forth, back in England with Martin O'Neill, and Sunderland, what have you. But I always seem to keep finding my way out here, and it's not intentional. It's just the way it's worked out. So I've been here in Nashville close to 3 years now, and we got out here just before COVID hit, which obviously was tough for everyone. But now we're nearly 3 years in. I've not been back to England since then, so I'm hoping to get back for Christmas this year, just to visit friends and family.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.
Final part of this week's Wycombe Wanderers Show still to come. We'll hear from manager Gareth Ainsworth as we look ahead to the visit to recently relegated Derby County on Saturday. But first, we've been catching up with Emily Isaac, who's the Wycombe Wanderers Women Ambassador, and obviously a very exciting time to be involved with the club.
A new coach. There's a new coach for the reserves team as well. The under-18s have joined the Junior Premier League Warriors, so they're playing like higher teams, our teams like Millwall Ladies, Nottingham Forest Ladies. Under-18s, new home ground at Burnham. Loads of opportunities coming up at the club at the minute.
And we spoke to Amy last week and Carl previously, and Vice-Captain Cara as well, and all of them saying, it's such a great opportunity off the back of what the women's team has done at the Euros to really get behind a team locally like Wycombe Wanderers Women as well.
100%. I don't really know many women's teams in the areas, but Wycombe is obviously one of the biggest in our county. So yeah, no, totally. Coming off the back of the Euros has really helped us. I think it's helped us gain supporters, helped us gain sponsorship opportunities, because people now, women's football's coming to be a big thing, and we want to be part of that revolution. It
really does feel like a time of growth at the club, doesn't it?
Totally. Going from playing at Freckleheath to Burnham, that is one big jump we've made. We've got more players now than we've ever had before. There's huge jumps that we're getting at.
So tell us a bit about the new ground, what that's like.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's 3G pitch. Supporters can come along and pay at the gate. It's £3 for adults. Under 16s are free. There's bar, toilets, just off the pitch side. Seats, you can stand. There's a little tea bar as well. So if you're thirsty, you need something to eat, it's always open. So yeah, it's a really nice ground. I would love people to come down. Free parking as well, plenty of parking. So hopefully we'll see a few people this season come through the gates.
Great facilities for both fans and also for the players as well, as they train there too.
Oh, 100%. Changing rooms all inside with toilets this time, unlike other places we've been to. They train there as well on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so they're always there, getting used to surroundings, and we can call it our home.
And the club have got so many fantastic ways that supporters can get behind the team as well.
Yeah, so we've got a season ticket initiative at the minute. It's £25 for adults. And obviously, under 16s are free anyway, so you get in. They can be bought online via the Wycombe Wanderers Trust website, and there's a section that says support the Chairgirls. You go on there, it's all done online, and then a season ticket, an e-ticket is emailed out to you within 24 hours of you purchasing. So that's one way. You just show at the gate, then you come in. And we've also got a initiative to help sponsor and fund the women's team. It's called Chairgirls Champions. It's £500. And with that, you get a range of benefits. You get weekly match reports, fixture updates, because we only get them so many at a time. You get a season ticket with that as well. loads of other benefits like exclusive training visits, exclusive visits at Burnham, loads of things. It would be great if we could get some people on board to help us.
And you do a lot of the social media as well. Are you sensing there's a lot more interest in the club and a lot of more of a following in what the girls are doing?
100%. There's a lot more now than in previous years, and I've been doing this for nearly 3 years now. There's also a big help from the club as well, who are sharing it on their social media pages, putting it out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, putting it in the supporters groups, through the trust as well, played a huge part in helping the women's team, as they pretty much run it and fund it. And all us volunteers are on it as well. So it's becoming a very big thing now. And we're getting loads of followers every day. So it's good.
And interest not just in the first team, but also the reserves and under-18s are both doing very well too.
We've had a good start to the season, just especially for the reserves and the first team. A really good start. Both got wins at the weekend and clean sheets. So that's even better. Yes, our under-18 season starts in October, but they've got a few games before that just to get used to the league, like a settling in few games. So we'll post them online.
And a really nice way for supporters to get to know the players as well and their backgrounds and stories too.
Going into the JPL is something we've never done before. So they're going to gain new experiences from that. We'll gain experiences on how it works. And all their player information will soon be on the club website as well. So people can go on and see who's who then.
And what sort of difference have you noticed that the new manager has made since he's come in?
Really, really good impact, coming up with new ideas, brought in players, top quality players for the league, up training, training twice a week, all the equipment they've brought in, absolutely fantastic. So they're really good. And we're really pleased that they're all on board. And
speaking to Amy last week, she was saying there's such a real kind of family feel amongst the whole squad.
I think there is, a lot of them stayed on, which is really good. And the people that have come in have settled really quickly. I think, we're one big family for the women's team, and long may it continue.
And I think something that's really inspirational as well for young players to sort of look up to them and perhaps, aspire to be like them themselves.
We want to inspire younger girls and younger people to join football, and this is the perfect opportunity to do that. So do come down to Burnham and watch them. They're really, really good facilities, and it's an enjoyable experience for everyone.
And a great level of football as well for people that haven't seen women's football before. Obviously, come and see Wycombe Wanderers Women. A great introduction to that.
I mean, we played at this level a few times, but there's a lot of good quality teams at this level. So it's going to be a challenge, but a challenge everyone's relishing to be successful in.
So how can people find out more?
Go on Wycombe Wanderers Trust website. So we always put fixtures on there, news on there for the women's team. Same with the club website. All on there under the women's section and our social media pages, so at WWFC Women.
Emily Isaac from the Wycombe Wanderers Women speaking to us here at Wycombe Sound. Don't forget we'll be following the Chairgirls throughout the season here on the Wycombe Wanderers Show. Back to the men now, however, and Gareth Ainsworth spoke to us this morning reflecting on what's been a difficult week for everyone.
Obviously, it's just football, as we all were thinking, what does that mean for the weekend? And then really you've got to think, the Queen has died. It was like unexpected but expected, and it was a crazy situation where somebody who obviously has been the biggest person in this country for so many years, has passed, and no matter royalist, non-royalist, whatever you are, I think there's respect for a 96-year-old lady who's done a lot of good in the world who passed away, and I think that was important to remember and respect and pay tribute to that. I think different age groups will do different things, but certainly I was very thinking about the family and thinking at the end of the day, just because it's the royal family, people have lost a mum and people have lost a sister and a grandma and things like that. So that's got to be taken into account. And then onto the football side, obviously you then have to think, and you almost feel a bit guilty sometimes saying, right, how do we get the boys in the best shape for the next game? And while everyone's sort of trying to be in mourning, but that's, I think, being very professional and being very adaptable as well. But I was really pleased that the players all observed the minutes silence really respectfully on Tuesday night before Accrington, and the fans gave a great rendition of the national anthem. I was proud of the Wycombe fans to be singing so loud. tiny bit out of sync, but we can forgive that. No worries. I'm out of sync myself sometimes, believe me. So it was a really nice moment, and nice to cap that game with a win as well. But it's I'm sure the country's going to be a loss for quite a few weeks. Some people are going to feel it more than others, but we have to be professional and like I say, we get on with the football and live life to the full. That's probably the biggest message.
And so many positives for you to take from the game on Tuesday as well.
Yeah, really, really good positives. Sam Vogts being back is one huge positive. I think Max Strake, another clean sheet, the change of formation, Jason McCarthy coming in, for his first game and scores a goal. So plenty of positives, and I think that the patience, it's not really been a patience, I didn't feel under any major pressure after the defeats. I think people know what I am. I feel totally at one as a manager now, at a football club, whereas probably in days gone by you can't say that it was those things, but to 10 years is close to coming up now. It's really nice that you can feel good before games now. It's not something, I used to be like toss of a coin sometimes, and now I feel like confident before games that what we're going to do is right, the performances is going to be right. And although Aki had a few shots, it was from very long range, and thought we defended very well. Max had one save to make and he made it superbly well. I thought that keeper was very busy, and we look like we can score when we go forward. So yeah, some real positives, and the biggest one was getting the 3 points. We needed that. Keeps us in and around it all, and I think that Wycombe is probably just under the radar at the moment, which is a perfect place for me.
And it must feel even more so this season, but obviously each team provides a different type of challenge, and it must really please you that your side is so adaptable. You spoke after the game on Tuesday about how they can play in different ways.
Yeah, we changed formation Tuesday. I thought it was the right thing to do. And obviously after the game, you can say, yeah, it was, but we might have won 4-0 if I'd have put a back four out. So hindsight's brilliant. Hindsight's absolutely brilliant, and I think everyone does have a degree in hindsight, don't they, after the event? But for me, it's always what I've got to do before the event, and I'm the one who picks up the pieces afterwards. But it's nice when it goes right. And as you say, Colin, our adaptability, I think, over the years, to be able to play different formations, to be able to change seamlessly during games. We went to a 2 up top right at the end of that game because I thought that was the right thing to do as well, and get some pressure. And Ali Al-Hamidi came on, really did kill the game, and thought it did really well. So yeah, all these little moments, you live and die by those decisions. And luckily, I think I've lived more than I've died in my Wycombe tenure. But I intend to keep going that way, and hopefully we can keep that up for Saturday.
A question based on an actual fan discussion: do you favour 3 or 4 at the back, or does it really depend?
It really depends, honestly. I like both. I do. I think we're solid with the 4 sometimes, but I think we're very, very effective as a 3 as well. So there's your answer to that. Work that one out.
It could have been a very short or very long answer. It's like one of those exam questions, and discuss. And obviously going ahead to Saturday, I'm sure many fans there'll be a bit of extra spice to the game, if you like, based on what happened in the Championship and the relegation issue and with the club and stuff. But I guess that doesn't really come into your planning or the players, really.
There'll be no extra incentives at the training ground, believe me, Colin. I'll be doing the opposite. I don't want us to take any foot off the focus of football and intensity that we've got to do. There needs to be no spice involved in this. If we have spice in game, there'll be something on every single game that something happened years ago, So we can't be doing that, We really got to say that Derby got more points than us in 1 year in the Championship. Okay. It was just that they did it fairly. That's fine. Let's go again. We'll go on Saturday now in League One, and hopefully we can get the points for a League One campaign and forget anything that's gone by. If you keep holding grudges, you're going to have a tough life. So let's get on with things, and we can make sure that we're at our best on Saturday, and that's all I want to do for Wycombe Wanderers. There'll be no mention of the team and what happened. So not from me. It's
it's definitely a whole different team, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do.
Excellent to hear from manager Gareth Ainsworth. I hope you've enjoyed all our guests this evening. Really enjoyed the chat with Steve Guppy. Join us next week. Don't forget, prior to that, of course, we've got live commentary from Derby on Saturday. We've got the Papa John's Trophy against Stevenage on Tuesday night as well. You'll be able to hear that live on Wycombe Sound on 106.6 FM and also on Wanderers TV as well. And plenty of football to look forward to. We've got Sheffield Wednesday in a couple of weeks as well. We'll be previewing that on next week's show and hearing once more from the manager here on Wycombe Sound. Enjoy the rest of the games and have a good week as well.